What is going on, guys? This weekend I actually ended up playing in another tournament. This time I decided to play Drytrons. I did opt to play the Megalith version because I wanted to try out some new things. Honestly, regular Drytrons is pretty boring to me. It's kind of a very similar line of play for almost every game. You end on like either Vanities or Ultimateness or both. And they basically just say like your opponent can't play Yugioh. So it's not really my most favorite deck, so I thought I'd play the Megalith version to help kind of spice it up and just have some more fun with the deck. I'm not gonna go super deep into the deck profile because I actually pretty much just like ripped it off of this other Yu-Gi-Oh player, and also he's a Yugituber and a streamer as well. His name is Pack. I'll have his deck list or his video in the description. I'll go over the deck just like really quickly just to show you what I ended up changing and stuff. But for the most part, it's pretty similar to the deck that he made. Mostly because there's a card I really wanted to try out with the deck and see how it went. Ended up getting top 8 at the locals, but I wouldn't really even consider it like a top 8 because I ended up playing like a lot of like rogue decks and a lot of like very non-meta decks. I really don't think that I got top 8 because of like how I played or anything like that. I actually misplayed a crap ton while playing with this deck, unfortunately, and I think that I just wasn't punished for a lot of the things I ended up playing with the deck. So I'm just going to quickly go over it and then kind of go over what I would change, how it performed, things like that. As far as the Drytron lineup goes, we have the 3 Thuban, of course, the 3 Zeta Aldabah, 1 Gamma, 1 Altace, and 1 Rostaban. I cut it down to 1 Delta because we are running Pot of Prosperity in this build. And then Delta is kind of not like a dead card because it is still special summon, but you wouldn't be able to capitalize on the effect if you Prosperity that turn, or if you activate a Delta on that turn, then you cannot Prosperity. So I decided to go with 1 Delta. I also used the 1 Rostaban. I think I maybe summoned him like once, but his effect actually never came in handy. So I would rather have sub this out for something else. Next up, for the standard fairy lineup, we have 3 Ben 10 and then 1 Ultimateness. I would rather if this had been Perfection because with the Megalith version, Perfection works a lot better because 12 stars is kind of a pain in the ass to get out sometimes. But the Ultimateness came in handy, I think, for like negating like 1 summon or something like that, which was kind of nice. But also the Perfection you can search off of a Preparation of Rites, which sometimes comes in handy. It's really not that big a deal. But yeah, I would have liked to have had the Perfection for a couple different occasions. Also, this build isn't playing Natasha. I kind of regret that, and I'll go over that later. Next up is the Megalith package. So we have 2 full, 1 Auk, and 1 Beathor. I think this is pretty good. I was playing a previous build that had 1 Ophiel, but I feel like it's not really super necessary. It's just an extra summon kind of for like no reason. You're still gonna end on like one of the 4 stars anyway, so it really doesn't matter. This is just a really fun option because at the end of your opponent's turn, you can basically use full to summon Beathor and just basically destroy your entire opponent's board. I ended up doing that once and it was kind of funny. It was against a Shadal player, so I had actually summoned Abyss Dweller and used Abyss Dweller's effect. He like super polyed a couple things on my board. I bounced it back with Unicorn. And then on his end phase, I just Beathor his back row and then he literally could do nothing. So that was pretty epic. And then for the fairy support, we of course have the 3 orange lights for negates, the Eva to recycle, and the Cyber Petite Angel as an extra Eva target, and also an extra search for Ben 10 in case you open it without Ben 10. For the power 1-ofs, we have the 1 Manju and the 1 Dawn Knight. The Manju is more or less your normal summon in this build. I am running Vanities in the side, which I also kind of regret, which I'll go over later. But basically the Manju is mostly your normal summon, otherwise it would probably be Cyber Petite. Next up, we have the spells, which is the 3 Drytron Nova and the 3 Cyber Emergencies for the Searchers. The 1 Meteonis for the Ritual spell, and then the 2 Fafnir. I feel like 3 was unnecessary and helped you, and could potentially lose to Droll more often. And the 1 Meteonis never really became an issue. Nobody really banished a lot of my stuff, which is kind of why Rosterbomb was pretty useless. And now for the Piece de Resistance, we have the Pot of Prosperity. The 3 of. I really wanted to play a deck with Pot of Prosperity. I honestly wanted to put it in the Dino deck, but I was missing cards that would help us go for extra damage. So I couldn't really play it, and so this was the only other deck that I had that really kind of fit Prosperities nicely. This card is super clutch. A lot of time I use it to search like Called by the Grave, and that usually kind of changed how my opponent played a little bit. Or you can use it to search for like a piece that you're missing for, like for example, like a Cyber Emergency or like a Drytron Nova, things like that. You could search, you can use it to grab an extra Ben 10, or not an extra Ben 10, but like if you didn't open Ben 10, this could be your Ben 10. So being able to go 6 cards deep is pretty crazy. Overall, I think pretty much like an MVP of the deck. Almost every time I drew this card, I just felt like super safe, because even if they ash it, then I can just keep on going with my normal plays. If they didn't, then I could just basically search for an out to whatever hand trap they might have. And then lastly, we have 2 Prep of Rights. And for the power 1-ups from the spells, we have 1 Instant Fusion, which gets you the Millenniumized Restrict, which basically stops any hand trap. I don't think I actually got this at all, unfortunately. And then, of course, the 1 Called by the Grave. Now for the extra deck, we have for Link 1, the 1 Link Karibo, and the 1 Relinquished Anima. You don't really use... The Relinquished Anima is more so to just basically like link with each other and then go into Union Carrier. Yes, you can use Anima to basically like punish your opponent if they summon monsters in like the wrong zones, but for the most part, that's kind of more of like an extra effect, I feel like. And we just basically go into Union Carrier most of the time with those cards, mostly if you start out with like Nova and stuff like that. And then as for the other Link 2s, we have the Herald of Mirage Lights. I actually didn't really use this that often. I probably could have taken this out. I saw in Pack's list he actually took it out, but I felt kind of unsafe without it. But I think that was a mistake of mine. This could have been like anything else that would have been more beneficial. IP Masquerade came in pretty clutch. Basically being able to just like link off into Unicorn on their turn, bounce back a card, super useful. We have a couple of them. We have the Nightmare package basically, just for regular stuff, bouncing back cards, spell and trap removal, monster removal. Cerberus came in handy one time, but that's about it. Now for the Link 4s, we have 1 Access Code, 1 Appaloosa, 1 Borosword. One game I actually really messed up, and I think I banished all 3 of these off of my desires. I didn't think I was going to need it, and then it ended up being a scenario where like I needed like a lot more damage to finish an OTK, which would have been nice with Borosword or Access Code. So I think I kind of messed up on that game, but these are just really powerful. I didn't really go into Oppo too much. I don't feel like it really needs it, especially when you have Ultimateness already. But I guess you could go Oppo and just use Ultimateness to like negate like spells and traps and stuff, but I feel like if you're going to cut out one of these, I'd probably cut the Oppo. As far as the XZs go, we have the 1 Nightingale, we have 1 Abyss Dweller, and then 1 AA Zeus. I was debating really hard between using this or the Daigusto Emerald, because Daigusto Emerald can help you recycle cards. This came in handy. I played against a Shadal deck, so this came in really big handy against that. It didn't really come in handy against like anything else. So you could probably just cycle between this or that, or you could honestly probably cut like the Mirage Light for like a Daigusto Emerald, because you really don't need the Mirage Light. You usually don't end on the board to go into Mirage Light anyway, or if you do, it's like you just like plus super hard already, or like you're basically already winning, so going into Mirage doesn't really do anything. And then lastly, we have the 1 Millenniumized Restrict. This is just nice for basically stopping any one hand trap. I would definitely still keep this in here. I think I don't see a reason to cut this, unless you like really needed like main deck space in cutting the Instant Fusion. But I think this card is still super clutch. As far as the side goes, I sided a Vanities. I would honestly really much rather have this in the main deck. I think I was too nice by having this in the side. I think I would rather have this in than Rostaban, and have Rostaban in the side in case I go against the banish heavy deck. But yeah, the 1 Vanities, the 3 Lancia for Virtual World and Dinosaurs, 3 DD Crow because I didn't have Ally of Justice or the Psycho Reader, and also I kind of like DD Crow more anyway because it's more versatile and you can use it for like a lot more decks. And then the 3 Droll for Drytron Mirrors, and then also if I did go up against any Dragon Link, this is pretty solid for that too. And then for the Spell and Trap card lineup, 1 Droplet, 1 Harpies, double Twin Twister, and then 1 Red Reboot. I would honestly would have liked to have like 2 or 3 of these, because it's just super helpful. I didn't get the chance to really use droplets, especially because in this deck, you can put your Drytrons in the grave, and it's just super crazy. Like it doesn't matter. You can just use their effects in the grave, and it's totally fine. Overall, it was a pretty fun build. It was very versatile with the Megalith package. The only thing I didn't like is that sometimes not having fairies in hand was really annoying, especially if I had Herald of Orange Light with no fairies to make it live. and it would just be like a dead card in hand. So sometimes having these is not always the best in terms of just optimal hands. I also ended up siding these out a lot whenever I was gonna, like, for example, for game 2, because I figured most of the time I'd be going second anyway, and then these aren't really gonna help me break the board going second, so it was kind of useless to keep these in. So I ended up siding them out like at least one out of three games anyway. So I don't know how I feel about it. It was just really fun though. Like there's a lot more different combo routes you can take, and you can end on some pretty crazy boards. Like I mentioned before, you can basically end on like the full to be able to go into Beathor, and then also the Herald of Ultimateness, and then something like Abyss Dweller, and then that's a pretty hard board to crack, and so like that's pretty fun. And then during the end phase, you just basically full with like either some other card in hand or whatever to go into 8 stars, and then you just basically blow up their entire board. So that's kind of cool. But like I said, I ended up misplaying a lot with the deck. Round 1, I ended up playing against a dinosaur player, and that was actually a really good round. I ended up winning game 1. He won game 2, but he actually went first, and I had to go through UCT, double Dolka, and I think like an Ash in hand. And that was pretty hard to get through. My hand was decent, and I Prosperity, and I think I just grabbed the wrong card with Prosperity. I grabbed Called By, which it was a good play because he had UCT and Baby, as well as Dolka and then Pentastag. And I think that was the right play, because otherwise with his UCT effect, he would just pop Baby, summon Ovi, grab Misk, and then I basically wouldn't be able to get rid of his dinos until the battle phase. Which would be really hard because this deck cannot really get over 3,500 aside from like Boral Sword. And basically I knew he was going to try to book my stuff to prevent me from going into like, you know, any like heavy like Link 4s or any like big monsters. So I would need to be able to have like negates live and stuff like that to be able to break the board. And I ended up breaking through the board, but he just had enough follow-up to be able to kill me the next turn, so it wasn't that big a deal. The third game was really crazy though, because I opened Busted. I put up Vanities and Ultimateness, but he drew the exact outs that he needed. So he activated Fossil Dig, which I let go through because I ended on Vanities and Ultimateness, and I think Link Rebo. Yeah, Link Rebo too. So even if he tried to attack over my stuff somehow, I would be able to stop it. But yeah, he opened Fossil Dig. I let it go. He chained Droplets. For cost, got rid of the Fossil Dig and then like a OV in hand, or Misk in hand. Oh, I also forgot. I searched Lancia too, so he was like mega fucked. And so he pitched Misk and the Fossil Dig as cost, and he negated my Ultimateness and my Vanities. There's nothing I could do about that because obviously I can't respond with Ultimateness against Droplet when he dumps a monster. And so on resolution, I chained Lancia so that way he couldn't use Misk's effect with turn player priority, and then he just hard activated Red Eyes Fusion, and then that just won him the game. I was pretty upset, but you know, it is what it is. I was pretty surprised to see that he ran the Dragoon package and Dinos. That really threw me for a loop because I think he main decked it, but I didn't see it at all in the previous games. Like the game 1, I didn't even know going into game 2, I didn't even know what he was playing because he tried to. I forgot if he tried to activate something or he tried to like do something, and then I like negated it with Herald, and then he was like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. But I think it was like Extrav or something like that. And so I didn't know what he was playing at all. Like I assumed it was Dinosaur because he won the dice roll and he made me go first, but I didn't know for sure. And then game 2 obviously found out it was Dinosaur, and then game 3 I was like, what, Dragoon? And so that's kind of how that one went. Match 2, I went against a Toon deck. That was really interesting. I won game 1. Game 2, I lost because I twin twistered his back row, which were both Waking the Dragons, which allowed him to summon Red Eyes Dragoon and that Raid Raptor card that like is unaffected by other card effects. So I was like mega fucked. There was nothing I could do. And then after that, I definitely sided out the twin twisters. And then game 3, I just won it in time. That's one thing I didn't like about this deck, is that this deck, the turns took so long that almost all of my games went either into time or like there was only like a minute or 2 left in time when we ended. So I would have rather preferred to play Drytron, regular Drytron, just simply for that reason, because I don't like going into time. And also not having Natasha was a huge problem for that. I know that this board doesn't really run Natasha because you just Beathor their board anyway. But I think that for the grind game, Natasha would have been really clutch and would have helped me win a lot more, because I felt like this deck had a hard time putting up a big amount of damage. I think one of the major mistakes I made was a lot of the time off prosperities, I would banish something like access code talker, and maybe like I would keep one link 4, but I usually kept Boral Sword. I think I should have kept access code and then use access code's effect to like pop whatever I needed to pop to basically finish them off. And so I think that was my mistake, because then with access code, one Drytron, if I go into IP, go into access code, gain 2000, and then have like a Drytron and like Ultimatus on the board, like that's game, as long as I pop their monsters. And I think I have 2 pops with access code, assuming I go into Union Carrier. So I think that was where I fucked up. And so there was like a lot of games that like ended up taking even longer because I didn't like OTK them, so we went into like another turn, and then it just became a huge mess from there. Let's see, round 3 I played against Shadal's. I don't think he ran any hand traps, because I don't remember getting hand trapped by him. That's another thing too, I didn't run into any Drolls or any Cycle Readers. So like I said, I don't think I really should have got top 8 with how I played. This build itself is decent, but I don't think it's optimal. I think if I had gone against like Virtual World, I would have lost, especially because I don't really know like where to hit that deck. Yeah, round 3 I played against Shadal's. Round 4 I played against Mathmex, and then round 5 I got a bye because my opponent left, or like they didn't show up. And so I got top 8, but I don't really feel like it was top 8. Overall, this build is really, really fun. But I think that for tournament play, it's I need a lot more practice with the deck for sure. It's not one of those decks you just like plug and play. And also, I think it is a lot more susceptible to hand traps, just because you are not going to be always going, like if you're not always going to have a Herald live, because you might have something like Herald full, like Thubin, I don't know, like Emergency and, you know, whatever, Fafnir or something like that. Like, or like, for example, if I have like something like this, so like a lot of time I would have a hand like this. Herald is just useless in this situation. Unless like I have Prosperity into like Ben 10 or something, then Herald is just useless. But then if that's the case, then I would rather this have just been like Ben 10 or like another Fairy or something like that. Or even like Natasha or like Vanity's Ruler or something. So just something that would like make this live in case I needed it. Because otherwise I could like potentially like lose to hand traps. But that's the whole point of Prosperity, I guess. It would be to like search for something like that. Like we would search for like Called by the Grave, or to use to search for like Eva or something to make Orange Light live. I think that with the Prosperity and like regular Drytrons, it's this card is cracked in like regular Drytrons. It's crazy. So yeah, main things that I would probably change would be, like I said, take out this Herald, or instead put in Daigusto Emerald. And then honestly, you might be able to take out something like Nightmare Cerberus. I feel like the Nightmares are really powerful when you summon them under like Link Karibo, and you get like the extra draw effect whenever you use their effects. But with Pot of Prosperity, you don't really get that all the time. So I mean, something like this is probably decent to like take out and swap out for something else. Like I said, this could be Emerald, this could be like a lot of other things. And so that's kind of what I would think. Maybe the Oppo, but it really depends. But yeah, the Abyss Dweller was kind of cool because I knew that one of my friends was playing Shadal, so I kind of wanted, in case I went against him, I kind of wanted this just to be able to like basically say screw you, and then not allow him to be able to play. And yeah, like I said, I would have really liked to have Natasha for like games 2 and 3. I didn't get to see Droplets at all, probably because I only have the 1. So I'd probably honestly put this back in the main, take Rostabon out, and maybe put Natasha or some, yeah, I'll put this in the main, then put like Natasha in the side. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't play against like a lot of like meta decks, so I don't really know how well this deck performed against those. I mean, like I said, one of the rounds I played against like Mathmex, and I was like, what do I even side for like Mathmex? I was like so confused. I was like, I don't know what to even side for them. I think I ended up siding like Crows or something, but they didn't really end up mattering. So overall, like if you have Drytrons and you're looking for like something different to play, then the Megalith version is like really fun. It's not like the optimal pick, but like I mentioned, it is really fun, and it's really fun to like blow up your entire opponent's board with Beathor. It's like one of the most satisfying things. But I think that once Benton gets hit, because it's going to get hit somehow, whether it's limited or banned, I think that the Megalith build might be a good conservable option because it is very versatile. And then the full is pretty crazy. You can like, if you do the combo correctly, you could like resolve Benton like, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times in like a turn. It's absolutely bonkers. And then especially if you did have like Daigusto Emerald, then you could even like resolve it even more times. But like I said, this deck has a lot of potential and it's really fun, but I think that it needs a little bit more testing. And I'm going to try to actually play a dinosaur build with the prosperities. So that'll be fun. I think I have a good build for that, and I'll be playing that the next time I go to the tournament, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry if this video was like super unorganized. I kind of just didn't really have like a solid like route for this video. I kind of just went off the top of my head and kind of talked about things that I encountered during the tournament, and kind of some of the thoughts that I had like while I was playing, that I was like, like this might be good to talk about because it's not super obvious when like you look at the deck build. That's pretty much it. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Shit, I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys learned something if you guys are like Drytron players or were considering playing the Megalith build. Or if you're not a Drytron player, hopefully it helped you kind of understand like what the deck like wants to do and be able to prepare you to like play against it. But that's gonna pretty much do it. All right, have a good one.